anger, rage, fury, wrath. Wrath is a fire that stays inside of you and it's left untamed. And before you know it, it's something that gets really big until it bursts and explodes, destroying everything in its path. Welcome back to my segment I like to call The Storm of Fury, which is part 5 of the 7-month long series of the 7 deadly sins.
And it came to pass in a time of antiquity, in an era before the realms of man and creature were set asunder, that the land was defended by the holy knights, who did wield a great and wondrous power. Great was their fear, and reverence they did command. Yet from their own ranks a treacherous company arose, who did betray the kingdom, and became sworn enemies to all who held the holy charge. They were known throughout the land, and their infamy did spread as the 7 deadly sins.
What's good? Peeps? With all things shenanigans, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year, I am your host that does the most. Maestro DJ Jones. I gotta be quiet because everybody in the house is sleeping. Good thing I got this microphone up to my mouth. Welcome back to the Maestro Show, the only show where you may not be understood, but you never, ever underestimate. So, I hope you guys are enjoying my series of the 7 deadly sins. Right now, we're at number 5. We got 2 more to go. We're at number 5, talking about wrath. We talked about what it is, and now we're going to talk about how to identify it. So if you haven't watched the first video, go watch the first video. It's called The Storm of Fury, part 1, right? So stick around. We're going to talk about how to identify it so you can properly know how to overcome it, okay? But before we get into that, real quick, if you have not already, go ahead and click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon right next to it. That way you can get notified of every video that I post. And real quick, if you like what you see so far, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. It helps me out tremendously, and I appreciate your support. Right now that we got that out of the way, let's ask this question real quick. Why are we angry? When we think about anger, it's helpful to remember that it's often a secondary emotion stemming from something else. It might seem like anger is the main thing, but really the issue usually lies beneath the surface. That's why we're trying to figure out the why. It is this distinction that helps us tell the difference between okay anger and anger that isn't. The question we should ask ourselves is, why am I angry? Is it because I want something? Or is it because God's plan is being tested? There's a big difference between the two. If you're angry because you don't get what you want, it's usually because of your own desires. You might want something like respect, love, a better parking spot, or the best table at a restaurant. You feel like you deserve it. And when it doesn't happen, you get frustrated. Talking to me. But there's another reason for anger, and it's quite different. You might get angry when something goes against God's plan. It's like when someone does something wrong and that makes you angry. Some people call this holy anger. A guy named William Wilberforce, for example, led a long campaign against the British slave trade for 20 years until the Slave Trade Act of 1807 was passed. He and other evangelicals, I hope I said that word right, but he and other Christians were deeply upset by what they saw as a terrible unchristian practice, and they were horrified by the greed and selfishness of slave owners and traders. Since God made us in his image, seeing this truly challenge can really stir up holy anger in Christians who prioritize God's plan. Jesus is always a great example of how to handle anger properly. The question we should ask when anger comes up is, why am I angry? Knowing the answer can help us see if it's okay or not. Here's a question that I want you to think about throughout this video. When I get angry, I need to ask myself, why am I angry? Is it because of my preferences, or is God's purposes are being challenged? So, again, there's two different types of anger, right? But the reason why you're angry might help you figure out, why you're so angry all the time. And from there you can figure out if it's justified or not, whether you need to seek help or not. Okay. So now that we got that out the way, let's go ahead and get into how to identify with wrath. Now this part is real short and sweet, okay? But I will explain these things as we go along, okay? But this is how you identify with wrath. Wrath is when you feel a strong, out of control urge for revenge, while feeling angry when something's unfamiliar is normal. Wrath turns into a serious problem when it loses sight of what's right and kind. There are three key distinct things that can turn regular anger into wrath. Number one, wrong target. When anger is aimed at someone who didn't do anything wrong. Here's an example. So let's say something happens, right? And at a moment it might seem like one person did it, but that person may not have anything to do with it. Or even if it's there, but that's not the cause of what happened. Without doing a full investigation on what happened, you might put all your anger toward that one person. Like it's their fault I'm this way. It's their fault I'm like that. It's their fault this, that, and there's going on. No. Number two, excessive force. When the reaction is much stronger than what happened to deserve it. Let's say let's say you got an ice cream cone in your hand and you're just walking down the street, right? And your ice cream cone drops on the floor or drops on the ground. Can't eat it because it's about to melt, right? You might be mad. You might be mad at that moment, because I would get mad at that too. But if you're so upset that you're hurting everybody else around you for ice cream dropping on the floor, because to be honest, that could happen to anybody. It could happen to anybody. But yeah, that's a sign of wrath. Like ice cream cone dropping on the floor and you mad at everybody. I'm talking about just spazzing out, going berserk. And finally, number three, an unending duration, when anger is kept alive for a long time, like a grudge or resentment, instead of being fixed. Let's say you're texting your friend, because sometimes text messages can get misunderstood. Let's say you and your friend are texting, you guys get into kind of an argument, and then your friend says something, and you don't know what they mean by that. But instead of calling them and ask them what they meant, it's like you sit there and you think about it all night long. Every time you see it, you let it gas you up. And then when you see them again, you just explode on them. When all you had to do was call them and ask them, hey, you said this. What did you mean by that? If something like that has happened to you and you gassed yourself up until the next day and you went off on somebody, that's wrath. So now we're going to talk about wrath versus righteous anger. The key distinction is the motivation. Righteous anger is all about standing up for what's right when something's wrong and trying to make things better for everyone, like Jesus clearing out the temple. Remember in the last video, I gave an example in the Bible where Jesus cleared out a temple because of all the greed and corruption that was in the temple, right? Jesus did that for everyone to experience what God has in store for everyone, for his creation. Wrathful sin, on the other hand, is all about hurting or destroying someone else to feel good about yourself. Like many examples I've used, right? Somebody has done something wrong to you, right? And you go out there and get your lick back. That's wrath. Whether you want to know it or whether you like it or not, that is wrath. It is what it is. Now, we all know how frustrating it can be to deal with anger. No matter how patient, kind, and loving we are, we all get angry sometimes. And the Bible acknowledges this as a common feeling, but also cautions us about the negative outcomes. A survey revealed that 70% of new American referees leave their jobs within the first 3 years. According to this study by the National Association of Sports Officials, all referees mentioned experiencing a widespread abuse from parents and coaches as the reason for their departure. This raises the question, why do we get angry during what should be a fun time? How does something meant to be enjoyable turn into a war zone? Our culture is full of movies and video games and songs that depict people getting mad and expressing their anger for various reasons in various ways. For instance, we have Mad Max, we got Falling Down, and we got Anger Management. As I don't even need to go there with video games, it seems like every video game is violent nowadays. These characters often react with increasing violence as they face their frustrations. And a common occurrence is just human nature. If anger is so prevalent among us, what's the issue? The Bible advises us, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. And do not give the devil a foothold. That comes from Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26 and 27. It's clear that anger is a normal reaction. But the challenge is that it can become sinful. The effects of anger can harm us and our relationships. It is very important that we think about why we're angry. As I did in the last video, I explained how anger can get mixed with other emotions that can lead to other things. Correct? So, when you find your blood boiling, when you find yourself getting heated, when you find yourself breathing super hard, like heart racing, things like that, take a break. If you need somebody to come grab you, let them grab you. Take a break. Really think about why you are angry. I remember watching Daniel Tiger when my son was like he was like a baby. And in Daniel Tiger, it was a song they did. They said, if you feel so mad that you run a war, take a deep breath and count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you have to take something from a toddler's show to help you calm down, do that. But that technique right there, just taking a deep breath, count to 10, 20, 100, whatever it does to get you calm, do it. Because what you don't want to do is sin because you are angry. It is important to remember that not all anger is wrong. In fact, You have the right to feel angry about these things that God is angry about. That, again, is called righteous anger. You can feel this way as long as you need to really understand why you're angry. Take some time to look inside yourself, whether you hold your anger in or let it out. Both ways can be harmful. Now, we've already discussed this, but again, anger that is not directed at the right things doesn't help you or those around you. Now is a time to let God help you replace your anger with love. But you're probably wondering, Maestro, how do I do that? It's okay. In our next video, we're going to talk about ways of how to overcome anger and how to let God help you with your anger. But if you don't learn anything else from me today, learn this. Know that life is not about waiting on the storm to pass, it is about learning to dance in the rain. I will see you next time on part 3, where we talk about the storm of fury, which is part 5 of the 7-month long series of the 7 deadly